All right, we are live. Today is Thursday, December 23rd, most places. And this is our weekly developer check-in meeting for Backdrop CMS. Before we get into the agenda, we should go around there and do some quick introductions. If you can share what your name is, where you're from, and something else you'd like to share with us that's not in our agenda, we can go around popcorning through it. I'm happy to go first. My name is Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California. I have a soft, warm cat on my desk, which is pretty exciting. Every time I go to touch the mouse to move it, he flicks his foot because he doesn't like it when I touch it. So it's my adventures today. Let's see. Tim, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim. I am not in Deerwood, Minnesota, but in Minneapolis, Minnesota, just a few blocks from Wilbur right now in a Caribou coffee shop. And excited to talk about the next release. So let's go ahead, Robert.
Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet, coming to you from Altadena, California, where it is raining, but not so hard as to create flash floods like we had last week. Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm joining from Greece. The weather is flirting with the minus degrees, but I don't see it snowing. We're not going to have a white Christmas, hoping for it still. Interested in general about anything related with to Backdrop and any way that I can help. I'll pass it on to Wilbur.
My name is Wilbur Ince. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I am here to get involved with the next release of Backdrop.
Calling somebody.
To Justin, sorry.
I'm Justin Christopherson. I'm just in Denver, Colorado, and I usually try to contribute to the infrastructure when I can. And so
Joseph.
Next up, yeah. Peter Anderson.
Oh. Hi, I'm Peter from Australia. Just checking in and seeing what's up.
Yeah, I think I'm last. So Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a backend developer and I'm trying to help with performance related things. And I think, I'm the last person, so.
Thanks, everybody. Before we get into Backdrop core status, I just want to do a couple quick updates. We had a lot of new contributed projects in the last week, which is kind of exciting. We have GitHub labels, which is a new module, do a barrel roll, which is a module that was ported from Drupal, passwordless, which I think is also a module ported from Drupal, and email confirm, I think also ported from Drupal. I didn't check on that one. And then we have a new one for Backdrop for mini layouts, which is really exciting for me because I have been wanting to work on that for a really long time and not had time to do it. And now someone else has done it and now I get to go use it, which is the best. So I love it when something you want to happen happens and then you get the benefit of it. Now I've got to figure out how to help, but it's pretty exciting. For the general discussion this week, we have Indigo Zella reminding us that jQuery update came out with a new version recently and we need to update Backdrop core. Our issue number for that in the queue is 5401. And it looks like there's been a lot of progress on that. There is both a pull request that needs a code review and manual testing on there. I do think that jQuery, sorry, this is jQuery UI, not jQuery itself. I'm not sure if I said that incorrectly last time. We use jQuery UI a lot of places in core. It manages a lot of our interface widgets. So we're going to need to do some pretty extensive testing on all the little bells and whistles on our forms, things like date pickers and stuff like that, to make sure that everything is still working as it did before. If anyone has any time to butts with every possible thing, that's a good issue to go tinker on.
Yeah, it seems to me the status right now is looking for what to test and how to best test it, right?
Yeah.
And so they've been testing a bunch of contrib modules that they know use it as well.
Yeah, that's also great. Yeah, there's probably a bunch more stuff that core doesn't use that needs more testing. So that's fantastic.
Are we keeping track of those items in that? Is that a meta ticket for keeping track of all those places?
It's not, I don't see a clear like bullet list of stuff to test, but there are like a bunch of comments that's like, oh, autocomplete, and then there's a mention of how autocomplete was tested. So it's sort of scattered. We could do with a summary update that could make it a little better. Color picker.
I'll take a look at that and see if I can pull a list of checkable things together for the next jQuery UI update.
That would be great.
That was definitely a goal, was when they finished this, to have that list, but I don't think anyone started it yet.
And the same goes with when we update CK editor. There's a bunch of things that we need to test, and then some people do that out of memory, but it would be great to have these bullet points for what needs to be tested.
On the parent issue, there is a list of things to test specifically for jQuery. So I'm not sure if this covers everything in UI, but we should make sure that list ends in a more question mark. So we should make sure that that list gets updated too with everything we find in this issue.
As I look at the ticket, there's already a meta issue about this 24, come on.
9.3.
2493, sorry.
Yeah. All right. I don't know if anyone else has any other specific updates on that issue, but I think it would be good to get on everyone's radar. And then Joseph, do you want to give us an update on your item?
Sure. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Oops. So March this year, I did a presentation where I showed off the basically tools I used for performance monitoring, and Nate had the idea of including these in our tugboat sandboxes, and to be able to see like how long everything takes and find problems if there are any. And then there's also a module for Drupal 8 called Web Profiler, which gives you a lot of information into like how the page was generated and provides a little toolbar at the bottom with different stats. And I have been working on a contrib module. I haven't posted it up yet because it doesn't really work 100%. But you essentially just drop it in and enable it. And if you have the XHProf extension installed, it'll collect all that data and it'll display like execution time and different stats that it collects from Backdrop. And you can go in and it'll show like stats for every function that it calls. And then you can click on these and you can see the parent and child functions for every function and navigate up and down your call graph.
Wow, it's like XHProf output, but in your Backdrop site.
Yeah, and it's just there's just a reports thing here that lists every page load that you run.
It's fantastic.
And it also works like I was doing tests, so it'll show your batch processes and backend things and like everything.
Wow, that's great, Joseph.
So yeah, hopefully I have a few more bugs I want to fix, and then I'll be posting it probably today or tomorrow.
Cool.
So yeah, that's kind of all that I have for that.
That's great. Thank you for working on that.
Joseph, you mentioned something about the tugboat demos. Were you referring to the ones that we do follow pull requests, as in automatically looking for regressions, as in? Okay.
Yeah, we could do that there, or we could do that on like the sandboxes. Either way.
Yep. Because you would need a reference, like the baseline, so to distinguish if we're having regressions, right? Right. Cool. But I can see how the contrib module will be beneficial for people, building new sites and trying to optimize things. Thanks. Really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit complicated, and I think it would take a lot more work to set up baselines for automatic testing, but it just like looking at a page and seeing why it's slow, you can just go in and look at it yourself.
I think it could be really useful too, like even if we don't have a baseline on the page for a particular sandbox site, just seeing them all the time, we would sort of all have a good idea of what a normal response looks like. And then if you get one that's a major outlier, it'd be like, oh, that's not what that picture usually looks like. And you'd be able to reference the other 18 pull requests you looked at that day, and you can see pretty
Right. And a big advantage this has is most of the tools that are available out there require a lot of setup and like external services. And this is it's just a module. You drop it in your site and it shows you the data.
That's great. All right, so looking at upcoming releases for Backup Core, the next bug fix release is going to be version 124, and we have a handful of issues that we're working on for that. There's one here in the agenda, number 5245, which is adding PHP code standard checking, which is pretty cool. This has a pull request. I don't know. Looks like it hasn't had any attention in a little while. I think my last time I heard Nate talk about it, he said it was pretty close and he was really excited about it, but there might have been some decisions we need to make about how to handle all of the current code. I don't know if anyone's heard anything about that recently.
The only thing that we were working on was the implementation, as in have it run for our pull requests, but only check the portions that we're changing instead of the entire code base, so we don't have, lists of failures all over the code base. And I think that Indigo Zella figured that out. So
fantastic. So it's marked as needs work still, but I'm not sure why. It might have been resolved. I'll have a look at it. And then there's no other issues that are specifically indicated for the bug fix milestone, but that of course does not mean that we don't have bug fix issues. So in the GitHub queue, you can look for any issue with type equals bug, or you can look in the 124 milestone, and there are handfuls of issues that are probably pretty close to getting resolved. There are some that are really complicated. Plenty of bugs to go around if people want to work on bugs. More excitingly, our new feature milestone 120 is right around the corner. Someone mentioned before the recording started that we have a week before feature freeze. So this year, we're going to extend feature freeze to, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I think it is Sunday, January 2nd. Just confirming here. Yes, Sunday in North America anyway, it's Sunday, January 2nd. Because the first falls on a Saturday, and we usually like to do sprinting over the weekend and try and get as much as we can in before that date. And then once feature freeze is closed, we have about 2 weeks to clean up any issues in those new features. So we will all start testing like crazy and try and get that cleaned up before release on the 15th. Do you have something to add, Craig?
No, I was saying that you were correct regarding the date. Thank you.
So for 121, there's one issue on our agenda to talk about today, and that is issue number 5044. This is to add a custom CSS class to regions in the flexible template user interface. It looks like this issue is pretty close, but it does not have an advocate. So I would say if anyone is really passionate about this issue, you can sign up to be its advocate, and that'll help move it closer to core inclusion. There's a note here, Greg, that says you're working on a different issue, but that one's not on our agenda for today. I didn't know if that was something you wanted to talk about or not? Add entity view to core.
So were you talking about 5044 or?
Yes, I started on
I think,
5044.
yeah, I think that Herb is advocating for that. I'm not sure, or maybe.
As I mentioned last week, the problem is that there's two different issues. One is adding automatic classes to layouts, and one is adding custom classes. And I think Herb has pull requests for both, and it's a little bit unclear like which one he's advocating for more actively or first, or whether he wants them both, or I don't know. So I haven't looked if he's updated that in the last week.
Okay, it could just be that the issue, the link in the issue is wrong. That one went to the entity view mode in core issue, or entity view in core, but it maybe was supposed to point to the issue you're talking about, Tim, with the automatic region labels.
Actually, there's another one about adding IDs in the issue field.
Yeah.
And Greg was supposed to be working on that one, but then I think he's working on something else right now. So. But again, I'm a little bit concerned that these three, the adding IDs to templates, the adding automatic classes to templates, and adding custom classes, that the fact that all of them impact each other, but they're having three different discussions is kind of holding them up. Like, Greg has said, like, he doesn't want to work on the ID one right now because there's work going on in the classes. And the classes ones, like, there's some people who want one and some people who want the other, and they've all kind of stalled because of that, I think.
Okay, so here's an issue for adding I don't know what this, so issue 5032 currently looks like it's identical to issue 5044 by the title and the description. So that could be causing some confusion. They both seem to be wanting to add an additional custom class. And then there is issue.
So the two issues that to avoid confusion. So it's 5044, which is about adding CSS classes to regions for flexible layout templates. And then there's 4052, which is to add custom IDs for the rows.
Okay, so we have three nearly identical issues. These actually look different though. This is for rows, not for regions.
Rows in regions, they're not identical, but they overlap. I think that's the problem. Is that the code is sort of overlapping, and they're because they all have to do with templates. Adding things to templates. One is adding classes, one is adding IDs. And ideally, I think we would get one of them done, and then we would talk about the next one. I think either that, or we would have one discussion about all of them.
Okay, and I think there was also an issue, this is what's tripping me up a little bit, to add automatic classes to rows.
Yep.
But I haven't found that one yet. As well as these two issues to add custom manual classes to issues 5044 and 5032.
Yes, Herb just posted on Zulip. He says that he's listening in, and the one that he prefers to advocate is 5044.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm dropping all of these into the agenda so that people can refer to them later if we want to try and figure out what's going on here.
Herb, if you're still listening, is there a specific thing that people can do to help unstick these or move them forward? Let us know in Julep.
5044. Where did 5044 go? Here. Sorry.
Okay, and by the sounds of it, 5044 has an advocate, and it's Herb.
Okay,
I'll update that.
thank you. Oh, 5044 is right there.
Okay. So this is a follow-up to 50. Oh, I just lost it. 5032. And so
It looks
50,
identical.
no, because the first one is automatically adding the names of regions. And remember, Jen, that was the one where there was consensus on automatically adding stuff, but Herb wants to add custom ones. So there's a custom field. And we broke those out. So they're two different issues now.
Both
So
of these say
Herb-
custom though, so I don't
Custom
see-
means that
I just think
I-
one of them, it needs, if one of them is automatic, it should say automatic. And if one of them is custom, it should say custom. But right now they both say custom. And they both, so we just need to figure out how to tell them apart. So I couldn't find the automatic one. I think we might just not be using that word in it.
Well, what I think happened was originally he wanted to do both, but we asked him to create a follow-up issue for custom. So he broke out the custom, but he didn't change the original title. So the original one that says show region names and custom is now just region names.
Okay,
The title needs to be updated. Let's check Zulip and see if Herb is updating us. Yeah, he said he needs feedback on whether people prefer 5444 on its own or with 5032.
okay.
Yeah. And he just updated the name, the title, sorry, of the issue 5032 to use region names as classes in flexible templates. That's it.
Yeah.
I'll update that in the agenda for you, John.
Okay, thank you.
So
Do we need to talk about that?
Well, I would just say that the history of this was that there was consensus on 5032. 5044 was a little bit controversial, but I don't know if that's still the case. So it could be that there's sufficient consensus now to do both. And Jen, or somebody was a little bit pushing against the custom, and I don't know if you've changed your opinion.
No, I still do not like 5044. My perspective is just that the layout user interface is already very complicated. Adding another text field to every region adds a lot of clutter to the page, which instinctively, if you show someone a cluttered form, even if it's not hard to use, there's like a psychological impact of that, them thinking that it's harder to use than it might actually be. And because this isn't something that people will necessarily need, if we can add automatic classes in there, I'd rather give them a tool that, that doesn't require a user interface change that they can use for the same thing. And I think that if people do want custom classes, I believe people will want this feature. It could go in core, in contrib, perhaps in a module that lets you add classes to lots of other things that might not only be flexible layout templates. I don't know if we have one of those yet, but it could be like a.
If you haven't looked at the second pull request later, I recommend you do that, because Herb has it's a little checkbox now that just says, so right now all you see is a checkbox that says add custom classes. You check on that and then you would see the field. So at least take a look at that just to see how he's implemented.
Okay, we should also update the screenshot.
It's less complicated now that the form is less complex. Like you need to sort of click on things to expand it and be presented with more options.
Yeah, I prefer that we give people the tool they need that doesn't provide any user interface that we have to maintain, rather than giving something they want and have to use if they need it because we didn't give them what they needed. It just seems like there might be an easier way.
I can't remember which one of the two issues it was now, but the drive or the reasoning behind it was that there's certain classes that can be used now in Bootstrap that are not provided out of the box by Core, and that would be the use case.
But this is for regions though, not rows.
Okay.
So that makes it a little, I mean, I don't know. I guess that same argument could apply to both regions and rows, but yeah.
Well, people should look at it and comment on that and
Yep.
see if we can move forward. Yep.
Yeah. I'll take a look at the new pull request too. I haven't seen it in a while.
Can we talk briefly about the pageless nodes or
Yes.
graphless nodes? Okay.
Yes.
We're short of time, and I want, and we've spent a lot of time in meetings talking about this. So my quick update would be that I think we're really close on a lot of things. I'm not getting much feedback on the actual text, which I thought there would be more discussion of, but I think there's still time for people to give feedback on the specific text. The discussion right now is one around Olaf gave us 6 great options for images to include in our new nodes. And we're debating or discussing which of those to do. Olaf seems to think, and I think he's right, that we've probably narrowed it down to 2 of those options. And if people have opinions on which of those 2, they should chime in. The other thing though, and this is where I'd like some feedback in this meeting, is another discussion that started happening on the PR discussion is Doc Wilmot has pointed out, we're currently, our 3 pageless nodes on the front page are a view. And originally the view was just sorted by date created. But I found on the tugboat, it wasn't lining up the way I expected. And as far as I can tell, tugboat may be creating all 3 of those nodes at exactly the same time. So sorting them by date created means that we don't know which direction they're going to go. And that triggered a discussion about, well, maybe we just add an order field so that people can manually sort them. And then Doc Wilmot pointed out, which I think is true, that the best or the most usable use case for end users would be if these were actually just existing content blocks and not a view at all. And the reason, which I think he's right about, but part of the reason we used a view was we were looking for a way to showcase views on the front page. So one, I think we could, I mean, I agree with Doc Wilmot that having existing content blocks would be sort of easier for the end user. But then, should we just forget about the showcasing views for now and deal with that later in another way? But also there's another issue, which is if we did do existing content blocks, I think, as far as I know, we'd have to change the front page layout, and I'm not even sure that's possible. So I guess my first question for this meeting is, would it be possible to change the front page layout? Or would that have too many unintended effects?
I think especially now, it's too late to possibly catch all of the unintended effects of making a change to the homepage layout. I don't think we can change the layout itself. We can't change boxed in to add new regions. That would be actually technically impossible without a lot of ramifications. But we could change the layout that was in use on the homepage for fresh installs. We could choose a different layout out of the box. That would be an option. Not touch existing sites. But yeah, I mean, I think also another reason that we chose to do it in a view is because we sort of sidestepped this issue. Where like if we can put it in a view, we can put a single block in a column and we don't need to worry about the layout problems. I don't know if that's the best solution to the problem, but it was part of the reasons we landed on the view.
I agree 100% that, yeah. There were the 2 main reasons were 1, to avoid the decision about layouts, and 2, because we did want to showcase views. I had suggested changing the layout and adding more posts, but then people looked at 3 existing content blocks and 2 posts, and they said that's too much content, and they wanted to get rid of the extra post. So then that left us with only 1 place to showcase views. So anyways. So it sounds like what you're saying, Jen, is that in theory, we might be able to change the default layout, but maybe it's too late in this release cycle to do that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it would be a quick thing to try to just like switch out the layout for something else and drop in some content and see what happens. But I don't know that we have enough time to do the kind of testing we would want to do on it to make sure that it's going to work how we expect it to work.
There's another issue that maybe plays into this, which is it is absolutely clear that some of the current contrib themes just will break on the homepage with this change. Either way we go. Now, like Indigozella is one of the contrib maintainers that this would be affected by. And her position is that she understands that and would just want to update her themes. So, and I think that that's a reasonable position, is that, you know, if we gave people an opportunity to upgrade their contrib themes and maybe help identify those that have problems, fixing it probably isn't too hard. But how much time do we need to allow for that? Like, is it fair to push this in and not give contrib theme authors? And this is going to affect either way. So even if we leave it as it currently is, some of the contrib themes need time to update. So is it enough to give them like the 2 weeks between code freeze and release? Or I'm going to suggest the possibility that we just push this off till 1.22 and that we introduce this like the first feature in 1.22 and then allow an entire release cycle for contrib themes to adapt.
So another thought would be like, why do we think contrib themes would adapt for 1.22 and not for 1.21? If it's not in core, they might not see it.
I'm just thinking about giving them more time, but it's not clear to me we need to. I'm asking if people have input on that. So,
yeah,
you know, will 3 months be better than 2 weeks? And I don't know. I think Indigozella would probably argue that she could get this done, and it's for her themes. And
I think 3 months would be better than 2 weeks, but there's no guarantee that contrib maintainers will find out now and not 2 weeks before 1.22 comes out.
Well, my goal was to go through and test all the contrib themes and open issues. Either way, and I would like to do that either way, whether we do it in 2 weeks or 3 months. But that we immediately, it's not that I've got a site already set up with all the contrib themes, so I can do that pretty quickly.
Okay, that's nice of you.
But and you know, we've only got about 20 contrib themes, so it's not like unmanageable. But the question is, you know, I'm okay with us releasing it as part of 1.21, but I just wanted to raise that issue and give people a chance to object or offer alternatives.
Yeah, what do people think about that? Silence.
Peter, you might have some contrib themes. Do you have any opinions on this?
Joseph might.
I don't think I have any that I'm maintaining that have releases. Will this affect custom themes as well?
No, it'll only appear for the blue block. New block will only appear on new installs.
Okay.
Exactly, but the day after this, if somebody were to download the new install, you know, the new site, and then add a contrib theme, some of the contrib themes would look pretty bad. So, but they can fix, you know, like Indigozella has said, she just wants enough notice or enough time to fix her themes.
You know, I think if we add this to the next release candidate, we could have as part of that meta issue that would be, you know, go in and check existing themes and make a checklist and check in with the authors of those and see if we can get those updated and have them issue a release when, you know, with the new dated core compatibility note.
I think that, you know, my initial instinct was like, well, we're so close, let's get it done. But Tim, now that I know that you're willing to do the legwork of reaching out to the maintainers to all the themes and letting them know that this is coming and that they can adapt for it, I think, you know, maybe what we should do is get it ready now, issue the next release of 1.21, and then commit it immediately to 1.22 so that people can pull it down. the latest dev version of Backdrop and start working on themes. And they have 3 months to do that, and it'll be committed. There aren't going to be any changes sneaking in that they have to worry about between when it's committed and when it's released. So.
Okay, well, the other advantage of that is it would give us at least 2 extra weeks to solve this layout problem. Because, we could feel more comfortable doing a new layout because we would have an entire release cycle to identify any bugs that pop up.
Yep, also true.
To be honest, I think adding a new layout is the better solution for end users. It doesn't meet all of our goals of like showcasing views. But to be honest, if I were building this feature myself from scratch, I don't know that I would use views. I would use existing blocks. All right.
Yep. Okay.
Well, I was excited about this being a showcase feature in 1.21. So I'm not excited about pushing it off. On the other hand, I'm totally okay with that. Does anybody else?
I think we can still, like when we do the release notes for 121, we might still want to mention it, especially if it's already been committed to 122, because we'd be like, by the way, coming soon to 122, already committed, and we can sort of give a little preview of it. And that also would help get the word out for people who have themes that they want to update for it. So we'll see. Okay.
A lot of people have been involved in this issue. Anybody else want to say anything about how they feel about pushing this off one more release? But I think we should make sure that this doesn't become an excuse to not finish it. We got to finish this issue in this release cycle so that it's ready to go, and so that we don't lose momentum and push it off until 2 weeks before 1.22. Okay.
All right.
Sounds like that was a decision. Go ahead.
Oh, did you not think that was a decision? I thought that was a decision. Okay, we made a decision. This is amazing. Oh, all right. We're out of time for today, but I wanted to see if anyone had any other last minute thoughts they wanted to bring up while we're all here. Nope. Robert, thank you for all of your continued work on backdropcms.org. I'm really excited about the label filter. So, looks very cool.
One more thing.
Yes.
Real quick. Issue 5389 is the issue I've been working on to optimize rebuilding of the menu links table. And Doc Wilmot has looked at it and marked it RDBC, but since it is affecting such a critical part of the menu system, I would prefer if more people would look at it. So yeah, if
Okay.
if anybody wants to look at that and make suggestions, that would be great.
Cool.
Me.
Signing to Justin.
Yeah, sorry. I thought I'd just bring up 850. I've been trying to get to the server upgrade for a while, but I promise I'm going to get it done by the 1st.
Okay, great.
Really trying. So,
One thing that I wanted to bring up is, fortunately or unfortunately, this weekend happens to be Christmas, and I'm not sure if anyone's going to be sprinting, but those in Australia or working for people in Australia are going to have a long weekend, like 4 days off. So I'm going to be sprinting. If anyone happens to have time, not on Christmas Day, but otherwise, yeah.
I was also hoping to have time this weekend on Sunday. So even if no one else, Greg, maybe you and I can get some
Yeah, I don't. It sounds like I'm going for a bike ride. So, can I offer a quick? I'm afraid that some people not on this call are going to be very unhappy with postponing this nodeless issue. So what I'm going to just suggest as a compromise is that we see what we can do in the next week. And at the dev meeting next week, a final decision is made. Whether or not maybe we've made enough progress where we feel, and the contrib authors feel comfortable. So, and just give them other people a chance to give feedback. So let's leave it as a tentatively, we've decided to put this off, but that people can still do feedback and we can still revisit this decision next week based on how much progress we make in the next week.
I think that sounds good. And if it's close enough to get committed on January 16th, then it should probably be close enough to be committed on January 2nd anyway. So I think like the amount of work we have to do either way is minimal. But that does give people a little more room to see how they feel about it. So I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts? No? Okay. Happy Thursday. Happy holidays for those who are celebrating the holidays. Happy Sprint Day this weekend.
Yep.
Happy bike ride, Tim. We'll see everyone around.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah. Bye now. Thanks.